Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Example of Play. For today's video, I'm going to be featuring a classic war game that just got a big update, Advanced Tactics Gold. It just got its first update in 5 years, kind of out of the blue. I know this is not a game that a lot of people play, but it is one that has a pretty long history, and it spawned a series of games that were pretty popular in the war game community. And then a game you might have heard of called Shadow Empire that looks similar to this. It's made by the same guy. This is kind of the engine that it's based on, but I want to do a video on Shadow Empire soon because it is really complicated, but it's really cool. It's this, but sci-fi and also a little bit of Crusader Kings and a little bit of like Paradox games, and it's kind of crazy how detailed it is, how many systems it has. But this is like the simpler original version that eventually turned into that. Um, this is World War II themed, obviously from here. And kind of the cool thing about this game is you can play World War II scenarios, but you can generate random games that turn it into sort of a 4X hex encounter war game, which if you're watching this channel and you've never played games like this before, might not interest you, but these are games that I kind of grew up playing a lot of, and this one was always cool to me because I don't think there's too many like this where you can actually like generate a random map and then just fight a war on it and have it be interesting. So this big update that they just got fixed kind of some of the stuff that made me not play the game back in the day. Or I played it some, but it was hard to get into because it wasn't very user friendly. The interface, a lot of micromanaging, moving stuff around, kind of tedious. And over time, the game's been updated to fix a lot of that stuff. And then this update goes even further to make it more playable. So some of these updates seem like things that are kind of obvious for modern strategy games, but it's still cool to see someone going back and taking the time to update a really old game like this that I imagine doesn't have a very active user base besides just a few hardcore fans. But it's on sale right now. It's only $10. So if this seems interesting to you, it's probably worth just playing around with. And then if you're interested in the Decisive Campaign series games, those are also based on this, but they are much more historical. They're based on different operations in World War II and have way more historical flavor to them, where this is kind of a generic random scenario builder. But that's two different kinds of flavors gameplay. But also, if you're interested in Shadow Empire, which is a little more popular, I think, and definitely a game that people are curious about, this might be a good introduction to the kind of interface and kind of seeing where that game came from. And like I said, it's on sale. It's only $10 right now, so it's not bad. Let's just jump into generating a game so you can kind of see what it's all about. Like I said, there are scenarios, there's player-made scenarios. You can play this in multiplayer against a human opponent, which is if you're going to play the more elaborate historical scenarios, probably you want to play against a human. But if you're just playing these random maps against the AI, it can be pretty fun. It can be very challenging too. The AI will waste you if you don't kind of have a good idea of what you're doing. So when you come here, you're generating a random scenario. There's these different scenarios. There's like classic, standard, new dawn, and phoenix, and these are all basically iterations of the game with more systems. Where classic, obviously very simple. Standard was kind of when the game went to gold edition. New dawn added where you have like officers who can gain experience, and then phoenix added more customization. Like, and I don't remember exactly what the difference is, but we'll just do phoenix because my understanding that is the most recent iteration of the game. And so you can come in here, you can say, all right, how big of a map do we want? How many players do we want? Um, how do we want no ocean? So it's just strictly land, which is pretty simple. But you can do a normal world, you can do a water, all the way up to like a water world. We'll just do normal. And then, so one of the things this update added is climate system, where the game did have like weather and climate before, but this adds where it looks like a civilization map of the world where you've got like deserts and Arctic regions and jungles and like I said that seems kind of obvious, but like this is originally like a hex encounter war game where that kind of stuff's not the focus usually, so it's kind of cool that you can generate this whole world that's kind of semi-realistic and just fight a battle in it. Um, and then there's all kinds of settings you can go in here and change, but I think we'll just do, well, we'll do full range, but you can specify like if you want to go to very specific different regions, different hemispheres, the regime settings, so you can customize like what the different factions are and what their I think originally it was pretty standard, like you got German, Anglo-Saxon, Russian, French, Japanese, Chinese, basically the main World War II factions, where now you can go in and you can kind of customize what names you want them to have, what their flag is, what color everything is, but we won't get too much into that. Then you can set continent size, humidity, geological age. So all that just kind of changes what the world looks like. You can set some stuff here. So there'll already be cities on the map. You can have like limited roads where you have to like improve the roads and stuff. Um, you can have cheap research. Different. You can really customize the game. But we will just do whether you want the map to loop around or not. Since we're making kind of a world semi-realistic, we'll do map loop. You can make it mirrored if you want it to be kind of more fair, shrouded if you want to not see what's out there. And then you can also do like a one town start. I like to do that, the one town start, because that makes it feel more like Civilization, like a 4X, where you start with one town, everyone's got kind of like just a small set of starting units, and then you're rolling out and building up. And then just to keep it simple for this still demonstration, you also do Stone Age, where you start with like no units researched, and you have to spend points to research everything. I kind of like that because it makes it where it's very, what do you want to spend your points on to research first? And then also we can say, okay, we can have like no roads, wildland. We'll leave some roads on and stuff just because that would make it way too slow to start. And then, yeah, so that's probably enough for. I'm not going to play like a whole game. This is kind of just a demonstration because I saw on like the War Games Reddit and some Facebook pages people are curious about this game just because it got a big update and it's on sale and they're like, well, what is this game? How does it compare to Shadow Empire, which a lot of people is the more current version of this. And so here, if we wanted to play multiplayer, we could do some different things. But we'll just go ahead and start. So we start with every turn you get a little list of what you produced. We have 4 victory points. We need 44 to win. So yeah, we got some supply, political points, which that's what you kind of spend to research and do other things. We have 60 units of riflemen and 6 trains, and this game does have logistics and then resources that you're tracking. All right, so here we go. Looks like we are the Russian faction. We're here on this little coastline in a very cold region. So you can build ships and aircraft and stuff too. And if we zoom out, we can see night. And you can play where you can already see the whole map from the beginning, but we have it shrouded. Just for simplicity's sake, we might generate another map just to see what it looks like. And then you come down here and you've got like that. This is kind of the thing about this game that you're either gonna love it or hate it. Um, but you actually have the power to go in here and just manually create like your whole table of organization and design like what you want your divisions to look like. There's no like just build me some infantry. No, you're gonna produce infantry units. You're gonna build out what your divisions look like. There's like a whole supply chain. Like you're gonna set out your headquarters. So you start with like Supreme HQ, but then do you want sub headquarters? You'll want those at some point, and then as stuff gets produced, it actually flows from the cities that produce it into a headquarters unit, and then from that headquarters unit down to all its subunits. So you actually create like this whole supply chain of production and where your reinforcements go, and then like how many railroad cars have you built, how many trucks do you have, how much oil do you have, like all that stuff matters. Um, it's it's really detailed, but also again, I keep going back to Shadow Empire. This is like the first iteration of Shadow Empire. In that game, it's like that times 10 for logistics and production and resources and everything. Here, the only resources are raw, which is like I guess iron and raw materials and stuff, and then oil, which you need for fuel as you get more mechanized forces. We can jump in here. So if we come in here, so our TONE, we don't have anything. I was playing around earlier, so I have like this little infantry division that I created. So very simple. We want 15 rifle units. We want 5 submachine gun units, 2 machine gun units. Okay, pretty straightforward. And it shows you like how much power they're going to have, what their movement type is foot because they don't have any trucks or anything, and how many supplies they're going to use. And so one of the things that's, especially when you first play this game, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around is like, well, how many units do I want in a division? How big do I want it to be? And that's kind of like the cool thing, but also the challenging thing is the AI is going to come at you with a lot of units, and you need to build a lot of stuff, but you're limited in how much you can build because this is where we come over. Since I'm playing with this one city start, you can play where you start with like a whole empire, like 5 or 6 cities, and you have a lot of stuff you can build right away. The way I'm playing it here is kind of how I like to play. But that's the cool thing with the game is you can customize it to be how do I want to play this game. Um, and so I like to do the one city start with nothing researched, and it kind of makes, like I said, it makes it kind of like Civilization. Like you're starting with nothing, and everyone's starting in different positions, but with the same resources. And then from there, you're expanding out, and it's up to you of like how do you want to organize everything about your whole force. But if we come in here, we see, okay, so we've got Perm, that's the only city we have, and then each city can have these like 4 production slots of what you want it to be building. It's building supply, which we need, and then you allocate these resources of how much, like you can only produce so much per turn per city. And then, so we say, okay, we need supplies, and those supplies will be stockpiled, so we do want supplies, and then all this stuff is going to um, the Supreme headquarters right now, but you can set your cities to send their stuff to different headquarters, as the scale gets bigger. And all of that matters because all this stuff basically has to be moved around. And in the original version of the game, is one reason I didn't like it, like when it first came out, was that you had to manually move a lot of the stuff around. Like you built these units, but then you had to like transfer them around to where that you wanted them to go, which was really tedious. And so one of the updates they made was where everything automatically flowed through your headquarters and to their subunits, which makes more sense and yeah, made the game much more playable. But then now they've even gone a little further and made it where, let's say, okay, so we have that I imported my settings, and you can save. So like if you do play, you make all those like different, like a division template that you like. You can save that to the game, and then whenever you start a new game, you don't have to start from scratch. You can just import those. So you come in here and say, okay, I want a new formation, and this is one of the things that was updated in this March 2024 update was that when you create a unit, you can just instead of having to create it and then like manually set all that stuff, it just pops up here and you say, okay, I want to make my division type A for infantry and assign it to Supreme HQ, and we say okay, and then now that is sitting right there. It's on the map, but there's nothing in it. It's empty. Um, but whenever we hit the end turn, um, whatever this unit needs, it doesn't show anything here, but the stuff that this unit is supposed to have will flow to it automatically from here. So we have riflemen here, and they'll flow into this unit automatically, which is cool. But also we had, what do we have in here? We had submachine guns and machine guns, so we'll have to build those before they won't just appear there. You have to actually produce them somewhere, and then they flow to that unit. But we won't do any of those this first turn since we'll produce a few trains because that will help us move stuff around faster. And I'm not an expert at this game, so I'm just kind of explaining, getting into the nitty gritty details. Yeah, it gets a little more complex down here, like how many you can see your logistics screen, like what's your capacity for moving stuff so over rail. You can reserve some of it. You can have land, navy, and rail capacity for moving stuff around. You can say like reserve me some of this rail capacity so I can like manually use it. Showing like how many supplies do we have, how many supplies are being requested, how many supplies are being sent out. Like it does get a little complicated, but for the most part, as long as you're producing some of everything, you'll kind of figure it out as you go of what you're not making enough of. But yeah, like I said, we'll leave that alone for now. We'll make some more riflemen, some more trains, and then these political points we can use to do a lot of stuff like create new units, create new headquarters, declare war, a lot of different things. But also we come over here. So in this, we don't have any cards. If you play Shadow Empire or the Decisive Campaign series, you'll have these cards, and they can come up here too. But um, I think in this mode we don't see those, but or maybe later you do. I can't remember. Like I said, I've only been kind of tinkering this game. The last time I really played it was like 10 years ago. But you can come in here when you get those cards. Those are kind of like special powers that you get, or a specific thing you want to do that might be really powerful, but it's like a one-off thing that you can do. And so if you play like Shadow Empire, that's a big part of the game is getting these different cards that let you do different things, and they represent like having the political will to do something, like declare war or initiate negotiations with a neighboring state or start some kind of like research initiative. Lots of different things. But if we come over here, we can say, okay, this is like everything you can research, and then this is what we can research right now that's available to us. And then as you unlock these, you'll get more options. But we start with just, since I clicked that Stone Age, we start with just like very basic. We can research Katyushas, and then we have access to just like basic rifle soldiers. Is I think if we come down here, if we look on the production screen, yeah, we can build cavalry, engineers, rifles, or staff, and then staff you need for your headquarters units to make them effective. And then we can also build cargo ships, and we can build like trains and trucks and stuff, and jeeps. So just kind of a very basic selection of things. If we want like artillery, we're going to need to research that. We're going to need to build it. It's very resource intensive to build artillery and stuff. And then also, it makes your units slower. Like if you build artillery and you assign it to your infantry unit, guess what? They're going to be really slow because they don't have anything to move it with. You need to build trucks and assign trucks to them too. Or you need to move them by railroad. Like all that stuff is not obvious, but it makes sense. Like this is kind of like one of those games of where it's complicated, but it all kind of makes sense if you think about it realistically. But for first thing, we'll just research the SMG infantry. So now we have that we can build, and we don't have enough points to do. We need one more point to do machine guns. We'll come over here. We will move, even though our Supreme HQ, we don't really want to use it normally to fight with, but if we don't have any other units yet, we'll use it to move towards. We want to get these raw resources because up here we have 180. We're about to use 120, so we need some more of that for sure. And then oil is over here, but we don't really need that yet. So we'll move there. And then one of the big updates, well, I'll show you on the next turn. It'll be a little easier to demonstrate. And then another quality of life thing that kind of makes sense, but wasn't in the game, and someone added it, which is cool. And we might turn down those sound effects a little loud. All right, so we moved up. We can see a little more of the world. We captured this raw resource. That's nice. There's a railroad here, but there's no roads. But I think you can build roads, but we need engineering. So there's engineers. We got to build engineers and put them in our units if we want them to be able to build roads and stuff like that, build bridges. So again, kind of makes sense, but not immediately obvious until you try to do something like, oh, this unit can't build a road. It doesn't have any engineers. So you might want to have units that are just small groups of engineers for building stuff. And so yeah, so we look here. So I built this unit last turn. We wanted 15 riflemen in it, so it got 15 riflemen transferred to it automatically. And that's something that used to be you had to like manually do that. It's really annoying. Now it just flows to it. And then you can even go in here and change. Like if I change this and say, okay, I want my Type A infantry division to have 20 riflemen. Then on next turn, they'll get some more riflemen to bring them up to that level. And then, so this is one of the other updates that was very nice. That seems obvious, but it wasn't in the game before. Now it is. So if you want to move a unit, you click on it, and then you have this move mode, and you can see where it can move to. So we can move along the railroad. We can't really move off the railroad because this is like a headquarters unit, so it's probably weighed down with all the supplies and stuff. But we can move. We'll move them back to the main city. But kind of a cool thing is, so you're seeing like how I'm moving this around, saying like where we're going to move to, and how many of its movement you're using up. That was not in the game before. Before you could just like you just moved them around, but you couldn't see like the path they're going to take. So that's nice. And then the other thing is you could switch movement mode where before you had to manually select each unit and turn on this movement mode, where now you can just turn on movement mode and you can click between units and move them, and it's like way more user friendly. So I know that that seems like not a huge thing, but for a game like this that's more than a decade old that didn't have that, now it does. Um, that's nice. Makes the game much more playable. Like it's like 2024. This is an old school game, but it's being brought up to kind of a standard that makes it way easier to play and more likely to have people interested in it because it is easier to play. And we'll send them down the railroad to get that oil there, and then we'll make some more units. So I might make, instead of having the Supreme HQ be my only headquarters, just to demonstrate, we'll make another headquarters, and we'll give it so we can spend 5, like making a new unit formation just takes 1 political point. An HQ takes 5, but we'll do an HQ with a leader because why not? We want a leader who can get experience and level up. So now he's right here. I don't have. And then we assign him to Supreme Headquarters, which you can also change that later. But basically, we want the chain of command to be we got Supreme Headquarters, and then that flows down to First Headquarters, which we could name that something else if we wanted to. These guys don't have any staff, I think. I didn't make one. You can make a headquarters unit. So yeah, like it's as opposed to just your regular units, make a headquarters one, which I didn't do that yet, but you could have it because they need staff. So like I made this unit, but it doesn't have anything in it. And that's how the game used to work. You made it, it didn't have anything in it, and you had to like assign everything to it. Um, so we'll manually, and so this is what you used to have to do every time was go in here and like manually say, okay, I'm going to transfer units from this unit to that unit, and I want to transfer 5 staff. And then they have to have some kind of, so they're connected by rail, but they have to be connected somehow for those units to move. But that used to be like, that's how you did all of this, and now it's all automated, which is nice. So now we click on them, they've got 5 staff, and we look here, so the staff is important, you can look here and see staffing. So now Supreme Headquarters is at 37% of its staffing requirement, so we don't have enough staff units to effectively lead, like they'll still function, but they won't get a combat bonus. So we want to produce more staff to kind of increase that. So instead of making more trains, since we have probably enough trains for what we got right now, we'll make some staff. So 60 staff, we'll spend 1 turn producing staff, and that'll be enough staff for the rest of this little demonstration. And then we'll go in here, we're going to change this headquarters unit, or change this unit to be led by first headquarters. So now our chain of command is that we have Supreme HQ, and then it has first headquarters under it, and then it has this first infantry division is underneath that one. And I'm trying to remember if there's a screen where you can see your whole hierarchy of all your units. I think there is some way to see that, but can't see it from here. Or if that's just all in your head. But they do have different colors, so these have like little red stripes, you know. There's probably some way to do that I'm not remembering. Anyway, so we'll make a couple additional units underneath first HQ. And then again, these won't start with anything in them, but over turns, they'll have all this stuff filter down to them. And then this is just the AI taking its turn. And basically the bigger you make the map, the longer it's going to take. But it goes really fast compared to it used to go. Now some of the AI are declaring war on each other. And we're in kind of like a weird spot. We're like on a little peninsula down here. We can't move very far, I guess, because we're in all this snow probably. And then these units can't move because they don't, like there's nothing in them. They only exist on paper. And then now, and all of our production is still going to the Supreme HQ, which is fine. We kind of want it like that where everything flows down. But if you wanted to get complex, you could set HQs with like different supply levels and stuff, like how many supplies, how much stuff you wanted to go into each one. So you could kind of like stage things around the map, and that only matters as the scale gets bigger. Here, the scale's so small, it doesn't really matter. Um, and then we come over here, we can say, all right, well, we've got plenty of staff now, so let's switch this to submachine guns. So we'll produce some SMGs, and that'll fill out our little divisions here. And then also we're going to transfer, if I made this a headquarters unit that had a template for staff, this would automatically happen, but I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to manually transfer some more staff over there. And then now they should be everyone. So now they're at 633% staff because they're only leading like this one little bitty unit, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, and then we'll just go on another turn. We'll see if we run into anyone else. If not, I might switch maps just to see a little more. And you can stack units, so like we can have multiple units in a hex. Then now these guys, so these guys got filled out, but the third division didn't because we just didn't have enough capacity to do that yet. We do have plenty of rifles, but we only have so much capacity to move stuff around per turn. So we could have like this headquarters also, it could store riflemen in it. Like we could have it like with this one where it's just filling up with tons of units and then those disperse like reinforcements being sent to a front. Like you could have a headquarters for like a particular front and then like corps underneath it, headquarters, and then have those units kind of flow as reinforcements down to the front line. And that's what kind of makes this game interesting is that, yeah, it's totally up to you of how you want your army to be organized and how you want all that stuff to flow. And here we're really isolated. Haven't even run into anybody else yet. And there's like another city up there. No one's got to it yet. I think I'll switch maps just to get. I wanted to come in here just to show like I felt like starting with the very low tech start, small scale. You kind of see like the game broken down to the very basic level, and like so now if we could do light tanks, and then that opens up medium tanks. But those are super resource intensive. Like if we came in here and said, oh, we want to make, I can do tanks now. I want to make tanks, and you see that. Oh, actually, like, yeah, for the same amount of resources that we could make 50 something submachine gun units, we can make 3 light tanks. So way more limited on those until we get more resources and more capacity. And then tanks need fuel. We have oil. I think we have to have some way to make that into fuel as we go. But we'll switch to a more standard map just to kind of show smaller or like an actual battle. How do we get out of here? Okay. So let's see if we went in here and said we're going to make a small map with kind of just the standard start and with a few players. It's going to be crowded. Okay, so now we're going to this is what the map's going to look like. Now we change it so there's no shroud. There is fog of war, so you can't see beyond your units, but we can see what the map looks like and then what the other factions control these different areas. And looks like we are some kind of Confederates. I didn't pick that. That was just randomly chosen. I know it's 2024. I don't know if people will go for being the rebels, but that's what the game gave us. So we'll just play around with that. And if you do the standard start, so we start with several cities, way more resources, but kind of interesting. This one city is isolated from our other ones. That's kind of a unique start. Like we're right in the middle of the map, but also isolated, cut off from our other cities. And then we already have these units that have machine guns and mortars and whatnot. And if we look here, we've already researched a bunch of stuff to start with. And then this is a no oceans map, so this is just land, a little more straightforward. Don't have to worry about building ships and stuff. But the other thing is this map's already fully controlled. So the other one, it's kind of more 4X, like you are kind of rushing around the map trying to claim territory before everyone settles in. Here, all the cities are already controlled, so it's going to be straight just fighting from the start. And we'll see what it look like if we do a round. The AI is going to show up on our borders. And so, yeah, suddenly there are AI units on our borders, which are equivalent to ours, but that'll change quickly as they build more stuff. And if we come in here to like our production screen, so we have 4 cities. Um, they're all just making riflemen basically to start, but we can go in here and say like, oh, well, we want to make, we can make some tanks. We can make all kinds of infantry, bazookas, engineers, cavalry, paratroopers, rangers, and all these have different strengths. Like obviously, like we went over engineer, you need that to build roads and stuff, and then they're good for urban combat. Mortars give you a little bit of artillery. Paratroopers can be loaded on planes and dropped behind lines. You got dive bomb, fighter, level bomber, transporter, so kind of your standard array of aircraft if you want to get an air force going. And then anti-tank guns, artillery, so all that kind of stuff you'd expect is there. And then we'll show just real quick to finish it off one round of combat. So if we move these units, which like I said, this movement is like way better than before, where before you were like manually having to click each unit, turn on movement mode, move the unit, click the next unit, turn on movement mode, move the unit. Now you can just a few clicks, boom, 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 move out this whole force. And so we're not at war with these guys yet, but let's say we do want to be at war with them. We come over here, we see these guys, the Middle Kingdom. We're going to declare war on them. And then this is the way, so if you were going to play like Decisive Campaigns or Shadow Empire, this is kind of how the combat works. These units can all join the fray. So we say like, okay, we're going to attack. The attack is not done by, or actually I think you can now, yeah, like right click and make it. So that was the other thing of the movement mode. The way it worked before is, okay, if we want to make an attack, then you're going to select the hex. You don't select the unit you're going to attack it with. You selected the hex you were going to attack, and then you picked which units nearby were going to join that attack. Now they did make it where you can just do kind of like what more you would expect. Like we say, okay, we're going to move this unit and we're going to have it right-click this enemy. Now we're attacking. And then it shows which units are selected for that attack. And then we can also add more. We can say just all. So up here we see like these 2 units are going to attack that hex. So you kind of build your attack from surrounding units, and then if you had artillery, air force, stuff like that, it could add into. And then we say attack. This is what the battle looks like. Not too exciting, but you can kind of see what's going on. So all your units that were attacking, defending, and then how many were casualties, how many retreated. So like if we're producing 60 riflemen a turn, that seems like, wow, that seems like a lot of rifle units, but we just lost, a half dozen in this one little battle that will need to be replaced. And then you also kind of just an idea of general power of a unit. It has this number underneath it, but that doesn't take into effect. It doesn't reflect like if this unit has tanks and they have no anti-tank ability. That matters a lot. Even if we just had like armored cars versus just straight infantry, that's a very lopsided battle. So stuff like that matters too. It's not just straight who has the bigger number. And then also there's terrain, so forest and mountains and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, we'll just run one more turn, see if the AI attacks us. And I don't know if you can make it where you watch the AI attacks on you or if they just kind of happen really fast. But we come in here and we see, so they didn't push their attack. They sent some units up here, just got some units there. But anyway, and then these guys are on our border. These guys are on our border. There's not a lot of diplomacy. It's mostly you're either at war or not, or maybe you can make alliances. But mostly this is a game about, yeah, fighting. But anyway, so that is Advanced Tactics Gold in 2024. It just got a big update, makes it much more playable. If you've never played the game before, you're probably looking at this like, what is this? But this is an old school war game that is kind of cool and unique with the whole like 4X angle of like you're gonna build your whole empire out as you go, and you're gonna design your units like what you want your divisions to look like, what you want your organization, your logistics, all of that. Like you're gonna pretty much handcraft all of that, which is cool. And then if you are curious, it's $10, so it's not bad. And like I said, Shadow Empire, that's kind of like the way more nuanced, like the way more complicated, way more fascinating. Like this is fun, but Shadow Empire is like a whole other level. So I'm gonna do that video on that soon, just because it's such a cool, unique game in that it's like this, but turned up to 10 with like different the logistics system alone is got like its own manual pretty much of building supply depots and like having different production and how that reflects how your army operates. It's really cool. It's really hard to play, but it's kind of cool. But if you want to try a simpler version of that, this is not a bad starting point because you do get some of the logistic stuff. You do get the kind of customizing, building out your force the way you want it to be, and you get this like random map generator war game thing that's sort of like What If Civilization, but it was a hex encounter war game with basically, if you like it, basically unlimited replayability. And then there's also the Decisive Campaigns games, which are like this, but with way more historical context and way more like a framework of like World War II battles and operations. So where this is like totally free form, that's more focused. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling, I know. But I thought since no one else has made a video about this, like why not me? This is kind of a cool, unique game from the past. I got a big update, and it's cool to see developers go back and take the time to make their old games better. And so I figured, yeah, might as well show it off a little. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, hit like, subscribe. Shoot me a comment if you like this game, if you've got memories of playing it, or if you're playing it in 2024. Let me know. See you next time.